They say your life flashes before your eyes in the moments before death. Mine didn't. I didn't see a tunnel of light, or my childhood, or the best days of my marriage. All I saw was the fluorescent hospital ceiling, and when I woke up, the empty chair next to my bed told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't there, and she wasn't coming. My name is Eric Dalton. I'm 44 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I was the Chief Operations Officer of Renslow Logistics, a company I helped grow from a 10-man freight service into a multi-million-dollar national chain. I built systems. I solved chaos. I planned for every contingency. Except this one. I don't remember the collapse. One moment I was walking out of a boardroom. The next, darkness. I vaguely remember sirens, then sterile light, tubes, pain, and an unfamiliar nurse looking down at me with cautious relief. "Mr. Dalton," she said gently, "you're awake. You had a heart attack, a bad one." I blinked, trying to speak, but my throat was dry. I looked to my right, instinctively searching for Haley, my wife of 12 years. Her purse should have been on the chair, her coat draped over the edge, maybe her favorite lavender tea on the tray table, but the chair was cold, empty. The nurse noticed. She hesitated. Then she said it. "She left a message for you. She asked us to pass it along when you were stable." I blinked again, confused. She said, and I quote, "Tell him he's not the man I married anymore." That hit harder than the heart attack. I turned away, closed my eyes, and let the machines do the breathing for me. My chest ached, not just from the surgery, but from the weight of betrayal landing squarely where love used to live. It was another 2 days before I could sit up and check my phone. The first thing I saw was her name in a text notification. One sentence. "You're not the man I married anymore. I need to move on. I've transferred the joint funds to my account. Don't contact me." The message was followed by a string of bank alerts. Transfer after transfer, everything. Our savings gone. Our emergency fund gone. Even the side account I set up for an anniversary trip we never took. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I tried texting. No delivery. Checked social media. Blocked on everything. My hands were still weak, but I gripped the phone tight enough to feel the tremor in my fingers. I stared at her final message again. Then I typed 2 words in reply. "Good luck." I didn't send it expecting a response. I didn't need one. I just needed to say it. Not out of sarcasm. Not even rage. Just finality. The nurses thought I was quiet because of the meds. I wasn't. I was silent because I was rewriting everything in my head. Our marriage, our business, my life, all the sacrifices I made. Late nights at the office, missed birthdays, putting her through grad school. The house in Willow Bend was her dream. I only ever wanted a small place near the lake, but I said yes to all of it because that's what love meant to me, saying yes. And when my body gave out, when I had nothing left to give, she walked, cashed out, and vanished like a silent partner after a market crash. That night, I refused the morphine. I wanted clarity, not numbness. I wanted to feel the ache, to understand what it meant to rebuild from nothing. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every red flag I brushed off, her cold detachment, the quiet disdain when I said I was tired, the way she laughed harder at other men's jokes than mine. I remembered the last thing she said before the collapse. We were at dinner. I had canceled a flight to be with her. She looked annoyed when I ordered a salad. "You used to be fun," she said. Now I knew what that meant. The next morning, I asked for a notepad, not a digital one, paper, pen. I wrote down everything I could remember, dates, account numbers, business assets. I listed what I lost and what I hadn't, because I was still here, and that meant she hadn't taken everything. The doctor said I needed 6 months of monitored recovery. They recommended a live-in nurse. I told them I'd do it solo. One of the younger doctors gave me a look, the kind you give a man you don't think will make it alone. But I had already died once. This version of me, he was new, sharper, leaner. I closed my eyes and imagined the version of my life she expected. Me begging, groveling, chasing after her for some explanation or apology. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. She thought she'd left a broken man in a hospital bed. But all she did was give him a reason to start over. They discharged me on a Thursday afternoon. No balloons, no welcome home banner. Just a folded packet of instructions, a bottle of heart meds, and a nurse who said, "Take it slow. I nodded, but inside, I knew slow wasn't going to be an option. I called a cab to the last place I thought I'd ever live again, my old apartment downtown. I had sublet it years ago when Haley and I bought the house. After everything, it was the only thing still in my name. The tenant had just moved out. The landlord, an old friend, tossed me the keys without asking questions. The place was half empty, smelled faintly of dust and leftover pizza, and hadn't seen a vacuum in months, but it had a bed, running water, and silence. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have to perform, not for shareholders, not for clients, not for a wife who looked at me like I was a spreadsheet that had stopped returning value. I dropped my duffel bag, one hospital-issued change of clothes and a pair of running shoes I hadn't worn in a year. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my chest aching, my hands trembling from the effort. There was no mirror in that room, but I could feel what I looked like, sunken cheeks, eyes heavy with betrayal, and blood thinners. But I was still here, still breathing. The first few days were mechanical. Wake up, stretch, walk, rest, repeat. The recovery center they referred me to had the personality of a DMV lobby, but the staff made up for it. Especially one nurse, Maya. She didn't coddle, she didn't pity me. She saw something else. "You were COO at Renslow, right?" she asked one morning while adjusting my arm brace. I nodded, a little surprised. "My cousin works at one of your distribution centers, said your system saved them during COVID, said you held that place together when other companies were falling apart." I didn't know what to say. I hadn't thought about Renslow in days. It felt like another lifetime. She grinned. "So, don't act like you don't know how to rebuild. Your body's just another system." That stuck with me. I started pushing harder. When I wanted to stop, I thought about the numbers she moved without blinking, the accounts she gutted, the silence she left me with. One afternoon, after a long session at the center, I pulled out my laptop to check on the Renslow business portal, just to see what was happening. Maybe to remind myself that I'd built something that still stood. I wasn't prepared for what I found. My access had been revoked. Not just disabled, revoked. I tried every backdoor admin login I knew, locked out. I emailed IT. The bounce back said my company credentials were listed as inactive due to role change. My name no longer appeared on the org chart, but her brother's did. She didn't just rob our bank accounts. She'd filed an internal board memo marking me medically unfit to serve in an executive capacity, citing my health as a liability. No formal hearing, no discussion, just a quiet coup while I was unconscious. I sat there for a long time, no tears, no screaming, just a low, steady hum in my chest, rage in its most distilled, focused form. Then I did what I do best. I opened a spreadsheet. I started tracking everything, every login change, every financial shift, every timestamp on the portal. I made a log of when the transfer of authority happened. I compared it to my surgery date. She'd filed the paperwork 2 days after my attack, barely waited to see if I'd survive. I reached into my drawer for something familiar, my old notebook, the one I used back when Renslow was still a garage project. I wrote everything down, not for a judge, not even for revenge, but because documenting chaos is how I've always regained control. Then I made one more call. It rang 3 times before I heard the voice. "Eric, man, I haven't heard from you in, 5 years?" "6, I said. "You still practicing?" "Yeah, small firm, mostly corporate dispute. Why?" "I need you," I said plainly. "She filed fraud against me, transferred assets, blocked access to joint funds, replaced me on company paperwork without consent." He let out a slow whistle. "You helped me pro bono when I was drowning," he said. "Whatever you need, I'm in." We met 2 days later. I gave him copies of everything, the bank statements, the portal logs, even the text, especially the text. "You're not the man I married anymore." That sentence had become fuel. He tapped his pen against the folder, eyes scanning the pages. "She underestimated you," he said. "No," I replied. "She just never bothered to know me." As he packed up the documents, I looked out the window. The city buzzed with noise and ambition and people chasing things. I used to be one of them. Maybe I still was. "Let's get to work," I said. And for the first time in weeks, it felt like I had a pulse again. It's funny how rebuilding your life feels a lot like building a case file, line by line, layer by layer, with no room for shortcuts. My lawyer's office became my second home. Derek, the same guy I once bailed out of a corporate liability suit back in the day, had transformed from grateful acquaintance into a pit bull with a legal license. We didn't talk about feelings. We talked about timelines, bank codes, power of attorney loopholes, and forged digital signatures. He traced the money trail first. It was clean, but too clean. Haley had transferred the funds in small chunks, just beneath reporting thresholds, multiple times, over the course of 2 weeks, while I was on oxygen, while my heart was fighting to stay in rhythm. She'd set up a personal holding account in her maiden name and transferred it all, every cent, savings, bonuses, even the Christmas fund I never touched. Then came the business records. That part was more delicate. She'd submitted a statement to the board citing my medical condition, supported by a letter she'd drafted herself, pretending it came from my attending physician. The real doctor never wrote a thing. That was forgery. That was a felony. We didn't lead with rage, we led with precision. While Derek filed preliminary motions, I turned my attention inward. If I was going to reclaim anything, my name, my dignity, I had to show up like the man she claimed no longer existed. So I got back to work on the one machine I had full control over, my body. I walked past the big-name gyms with neon lights and smoothie bars and walked into a local place called Titan Strength. No frills, no cameras, just rubber floors, iron, and sweat. That's where I saw him, Logan Michaels. Back in the Renslow days, I'd helped him restructure his delivery routes when he was just starting his first fitness studio. Now he looked 10 pounds leaner, 10 times wealthier, and carried the posture of someone who knew exactly what he owned. He looked up from a clipboard and blinked. "Eric?" "Logan," I said, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled without forcing it. "Man," he said, pulling me into a quick, firm hug. "I heard something happened, but didn't know the details." "Long story," I said, "but I'm upright." We talked. Not the small talk people do when they're pretending to care. Real talk. I told him enough to paint the picture. Heart attack, betrayal, wiped out, rebuilding. He didn't flinch. He nodded. "You still that logistics wizard?" he asked, arms crossed. "Sharper than ever," I said, "and more dangerous with a spreadsheet." He laughed. "Good. I've got 3 locations and a 4th launching in Tampa next quarter. Systems are breaking under growth. If you're willing to consult, I'll give you back-end control and a percentage." "No title," I said. "No noise. I don't want anything that flashes on LinkedIn." "Just results," he said. "Same as before." That night, I dusted off my old frameworks, built out customized inventory rotation templates, designed staff scheduling models with adaptive load balancing. 2 hours in, I forgot I was supposed to be recovering. My mind was alive again, slicing through chaos like a scalpel. Within a week, his team had implemented my changes. Within a month, his profit margin jumped 17%. He sent me the first cut via direct deposit. I stared at the number, modest but clean, untouched by betrayal. I wasn't back, but I was moving forward. Meanwhile, Derek was assembling the war chest. He pulled in a forensic accountant to validate the paper trail. We collected IP addresses showing Haley's logins during the account transfers. We confirmed the forged physician letter through metadata analysis. Then came the final prep. Subpoenas, notices, court filings. I remember the moment I held the envelope in my hand, thick, stamped, and ready to rupture the little world she'd built for herself. Derek looked at me. "Want to serve it personally?" he asked. I shook my head. "Let her get it like she gave it to me, cold and without warning." We sent them through official channels, one for her, one for the board, one for her brother. Her name, once quietly placed above mine on company documents, now appeared in bold font under the heading Defendant. She didn't know yet, but the clock had started ticking. That night, after filing, I walked back into Titan Strength. The gym was mostly empty. Logan tossed me a towel. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. "Getting there." I finished 3 sets of incline presses and wiped down the bench. My body still ached, but the pain was clean now. Earned, like my place in that gym, like every dollar in my new account, like every page in the case file building against her. She thought I'd stay broken, but I wasn't interested in sympathy. I was building. Quietly, relentlessly. and I hadn't even started pressing back yet. Courtrooms have a smell, not the kind you notice right away, something beneath the floor wax and old wood. It's tension, ego, fear dressed in business casual. I walked in wearing a charcoal suit that hadn't seen daylight since the last Renslow board meeting. Different posture this time, though. I wasn't there to present. I was there to dismantle. She was already seated when I entered. Haley, hair pinned up, pearl earrings, lips pressed into that soft, calculated smile she used to wear when cornered. Her brother sat beside her, pale, shifting in his chair like he was waiting for a trap to spring. Derek leaned over to me. Judge Maxwell, fair, hates liars. Perfect, I muttered. The proceedings began like most, procedural notes, roll call, timelines. Then the judge turned to our side. Mr. Dalton, your counsel may proceed. Derek stood and started peeling layers. First came the bank transfers. We had timestamps, login locations, IP logs showing she'd moved funds while I was unconscious post-surgery. Her attorney objected, claiming joint account privileges, but Derek shut it down with a single clause from our prenup. Any emergency withdrawal over $25,000 required dual approval. She had moved over $300,000. Then came the forged physician letter. We had a statement from the hospital verifying no such document was issued. The judge raised an eyebrow and asked, "And who submitted this to the Renslow board?" Derek nodded toward Haley. "That would be the defendant?" She shifted. The pearls looked heavier now. When we presented the company restructuring document, naming her brother interim COO, the judge asked a single question. "Did Mr. Dalton sign this?" Her lawyer hesitated. "Given his medical condition—" "That's a no," the judge cut in. "Move on." I watched the color drain from her brother's face. He looked at her, then at me, then down at the polished table like it could offer an escape. We submitted the final piece, a financial audit tracing business expenses routed into her personal account. Over $78,000 in non-approved transactions, spas, travel, a wellness retreat in Sedona. The judge didn't flinch, just tapped his pen, then spoke 6 words that hung in the room like a dropped guillotine. All defendant accounts are temporarily frozen. Haley turned toward her lawyer in a whisper panic. The kind of hush only people with something to hide know how to use. The judge didn't care. He'd already signed the order. A trustee would now manage Renslow Logistics until ownership was determined in full review. She stood there, stunned. I didn't say a word. I just watched. The bailiff dismissed us. In the hallway, I felt her behind me before she said a thing. Then, "Eric, wait." I turned. Slowly, her voice cracked, equal parts disbelief and desperation. "You didn't have to do this. We could have figured something out." "You made your choice," I said. "I made mine." Her eyes flared. "You're punishing me because I left?" "No," I replied. "Because you tried to erase me while I was unconscious. Big difference." She took a step closer. "You were broken. I didn't know what to do. You drained everything, replaced me, forged my doctor's signature. This isn't abandonment, it's fraud." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "And by the way," I added, "your brother's liability is direct. His name's on those filings. You didn't just burn me, you pulled him into the fire too." He walked past us then, not even glancing her way. I don't know if shame looks different on people, but on him, it looked like a man drowning in his own reflection. By the time I got back to my apartment, Derek had already emailed me a PDF copy of the court order. At the bottom, Judge Maxwell's signature, stamped beside the phrase, "Pending resolution." The next morning, a friend sent me a screenshot from Business Pulse Weekly. Headline, "Renslow Logistics under temporary control amid executive dispute and allegations of fraud." Below, it was a cropped photo of Haley entering the courthouse, face turned away from the lens. The article didn't hold back. It listed everything: financial misappropriation, forged documents, frozen accounts. Her name was spelled correctly, bold black type. Later that day, my phone buzzed. A message from a number that had been blocked for months. We could have fixed this. I stared at it for a while. Then I locked my screen and tossed the phone face down on the table. No reply. Not because I didn't have words, but because silence is sometimes the sharpest edge you can leave behind. I sat back, cracked open a bottle of water, and looked out the window. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt clean. And sometimes clean is better than revenge. The morning light always hits the railing first. Gold, soft, quiet. It crawls across the balcony like it's in no rush, like it knows peace takes its time. I sit there most days with a cup of coffee in one hand and a pen in the other, not out of habit, but because I can. 6 months ago, I was lying in a hospital bed wondering if I'd even make it to next week. Now, I'm overlooking the city from the 12th floor of a condo that I signed for in my name. Only mine. No co-owner. No for now clauses. Just a man, a lease, and a view. The journal that started with broken handwriting in rehab now sits typed and titled on my desk. Heart first. What nearly dying taught me about living. It's not a revenge story. It's not a tell-all. It's a survival manual for the man I used to be, and maybe for a few others out there who were told they weren't enough when they needed help the most. I've read every page of it 5 times. Each pass-through feels lighter, not because the words changed, but because I did. Titan Strength now has 6 locations. Logan made me an equity partner 3 months ago. I don't handle day-to-day ops. I build systems, consult on strategy, train their leadership team to think lean and move smarter. I speak at a few events now. I keep it low profile, but the invitations keep coming. Sometimes I still wake up before my alarm, not from stress, just from the quiet buzz of forward motion, the feeling that something inside me is finally aligned. This morning, as the light touches the edge of my chair, I pick up my phone to read the headlines. 3rd article down, buried under stock analysis and politics, is a name I know too well. Former Renslow executive under investigation as business license suspended. Haley's photo sits under the headline, not the polished version. No makeup, no PR smile, just a tired face, half-lit, caught walking out of a municipal building. The article says her license was flagged after multiple irregularities were found in her company's financial reporting. Her brother's name isn't mentioned, but I know he cut ties months ago, quietly sold his share, took a job out of state. Last I heard, he's working corporate logistics again. Funny how the cycle resets. The piece also mentions her last known address, foreclosed, unoccupied. The property auctioned in a quiet sale 2 weeks ago. I sip my coffee. No anger, no glee. Just a clean, cool kind of closure. The kind that doesn't need applause. My phone buzzes again. A message from an unfamiliar number, but I know the name when I open it. Maya, Nurse, Recovery Center. She'd written it like that in the contact field, probably assuming I'd forgotten. I hadn't. The message is short, just a photo. Sunrise over the pier. Ocean soft in the distance. A warm amber line cutting across the water like a promise. Under the photo, 1 sentence. You made it. I stare at it for a while. No rush to reply, just letting it settle. I remember her voice in that sterile room, firm, unafraid. The way she never spoke to me like I was fragile. The way she looked at me and said, "Your body's just another system." She was right, and I rebuilt it. I put the phone down and turned to the envelope on the table beside me. Inside is the final equity agreement for Titan Strength. Clean, simple. My name on every page. I open the flap, take out the document, and lay it flat. I pick up my favorite pen, metal barrel, solid weight, the one I started journaling with back when my hands still trembled, and sign the bottom line. No notary, no witnesses, just my signature, the morning sun, and the steady beat of a heart that remembered how to keep going. Still here. 2 words. Quiet, but powerful. I say them out loud, just to hear what they sound like in my own voice now. They don't echo. They land. I lean back in the chair, let the breeze roll across my arms, and breathe deep. Nothing artificial, nothing forced. Later today, I'll head to Titan HQ for our monthly review. After that, maybe lunch with a startup founder looking for back-end help. The world feels open again, clean, clear, like the sunrise on my screen. But for now, I sit, I sip, I smile, still here, and I've never felt more alive.